Hey everyone, it's Wednesday, February the 12th, 2020. I want to tell you guys about a dream I had last night. So, in this dream, I was at my grandmother's house. Now, my grandmother has gone on into eternity at this point, but in this dream, she was there and she was like cutting up vegetables and packing up vegetables. And I don't know if I was helping her or I was just doing it for myself, but I got a sweet white onion and I cut it up into slices and I put it in a plastic bag and put it in the refrigerator. My grandmother went to the back and she came back to where we were cutting vegetables and she told me, I didn't want to be late for my flight and I needed to get ready. And that she also said, when I park my car, I need to back my car in, like in reverse, and park the tail of the car to the side, or just like pull in backwards in reverse, which in my last dream, you remember I was driving a bus in reverse around all these windy roads. So my grandmother told me, go in the, make sure you pull the car into reverse when you park at the airport. I was like, okay. So I got my bag and I headed out the door. I thought I woke up, but I did not wake up. The next thing, I don't remember getting on a plane, but the next thing I remember, I was in either Israel or Egypt, and it was a very sunny day. It wasn't necessarily hot, but it was very sunny, very bright, and it was sand everywhere. All the roads were like sand paved or something. It was no streets or cobblestone, it was just sand. And all the buildings were made out of these sand type stones. They were like a yellow, they weren't really adobe, they were like a huge yellow brick. All the buildings and walls were made out of this. And it seemed like I was in the city center because there were a lot of people just walking back and forth with like clay pots of water and all these other things. It was like being downtown, but like 1,000, 2,000 years ago. So I look around the city and then I look at my surroundings and I'm standing with three other men. The man in front of me is a lighter skinned Arab looking man. He is like a tanned red, like almost sunburnt, but he wasn't sunburnt, but his skin was turning red. And he had on like an Egyptian headdress that you see like the men used to wear. It was blue and gold or something like that, and he was muscular. And he was having a discussion with me. And there were two other men, and they were also dressed in ancient clothes, but they were dressed different than him. And I also had on ancient clothes because I looked down at my clothes and there was something covering my head, but I don't think it was an Egyptian thing. I don't know what it was now, but it was something covering my hair. And I had on some ancient clothes. And if you remember in that previous dream, those Ethiopians had on ancient clothes when I saw them escaping the fire. So I looked down at my clothes and I was like, okay. So then I noticed each one of us had on different types of clothes. So we were all from, like, I could tell the Egyptian man was from Egypt. I don't remember where the other two men were from, but they all knew that I was from Israel. So they asked me, was I coming from or going to Israel? So I told them I was on my way back home to the land of my fathers. And they were like, oh yeah, we see a lot of you guys going back to Israel. Like they weren't surprised. They knew I was either coming from Israel or going to Israel by the way I was dressed and the color of my skin. That's the way I looked. And so we started having a conversation. It seemed like they kind of knew me, but not 100%. I think they just could tell I was on my way back to Israel. And I only remember the Egyptian man saying something to me. We were talking for a little while, and then he said something like, so why are you going back to Israel? And I told him, I'm going back to the land of my forefathers. I'm returning. And he was saying, well, the people of Israel aren't going to do anything. They're not going to go anywhere. They're just, going back to go back. And I don't know what I said to him, but I was like, well, that has nothing to do with me. That's not me. I got to go back to my homeland. And he was like, yeah, I understand. So I separated from the group. I said, goodbye to them in whatever language we were speaking. It seemed like English, but who knows? And I separated and I went my own way. I was going toward Israel. I started walking down the sand path and I left the three men behind. They waved, I waved, and I kept on going on about my business. Now, that was the first series of dreams I had. And it's somewhat similar to the one where I saw those Ethiopians escaping that fire and they were all wearing ancient clothes. And again, I could tell by the way that I was dressed and how I looked. I'm dark skinned with this type of beard, a woolly beard. They knew that I was going to Israel. They were already aware. It's kind of like if a person, like in the U.S. for instance, if you saw somebody in, I'm just saying this as an example, in overalls and a straw hat, you might say, oh, this person is from down south, they're going back down south. Or if you saw somebody, in in a turban and like I don't know, like dressed like an Arab person, you might think, oh, this person is a Muslim. That's how we were all dressed. It was obvious that we were from different countries, but they were all countries surrounding Israel, so we weren't really strangers. So anyway, I walked on my path, and then I woke up, and I was thinking, wow, this dream is similar, somewhat similar to the last one, with me going in reverse, and also with these ancient clothes, except last time I had on current day clothes in the other dream, and in this dream I had on ancient clothes like I never even seen before. And so then I had when I got up, let me say this. I had another dream after that I don't think was from the Most High, but when I got up, I decided to read the Bible, and this is what I turned to. I just opened it up. I turned to Isaiah chapter 43, verse 18 through 28, and I read, "Remember ye not the former things, neither consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing, now it shall spring forth. Shall ye not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness, and rivers in the desert. The beasts of the field shall honor me, the dragons and the owls, because I give waters in the wilderness, and rivers in the desert, to give drink to my people, my chosen. This people have I formed for myself, they shall shew forth my praise. But thou hast not called upon me, O Jacob, but thou hast been weary of me, O Israel. Thou hast not brought me the small cattle of thy burnt offerings, neither hast thou honored me with thy sacrifices. I have not caused thee to serve with an offering, nor wearied thee with incense. Thou hast bought me no sweet cane with money, neither hast thou filled me with the fat of thy sacrifices. But thou hast made me to serve with thy sins. Thou hast wearied me with thine iniquities. I, even I, am he that blotteth out thy transgressions for mine own sake, and will not remember thy sins. Put me in remembrance, let us plead together. Declare thou, that thou mayest be justified. Thy first father hath sinned, and thy teachers have transgressed against me. Therefore I have profaned the princes of the sanctuary, and have given Jacob to the curse, and Israel to reproaches." Now, this is my grandmother's Bible that I have. And I just randomly turned to this page. There's no mark or anything, but my grandmother was reading this same chapter at some point. I don't know how long. My grandmother's been dead for almost 20 years now. So at some point she was reading this chapter because she marked with her highlighter chapter 43. So when I opened it up, I was on this next page where it starts with verse 18 up here. Yeah, up here. So I thought that was very direct, and it had something to do with what I was dreaming about. And also, I looked up something online about onions meaning in the Bible, and of course I found nothing. But what I did find was when the children of Israel had left out of Egypt, when they had been delivered by the Most High, and Moses had taken them out of Egypt, when they were eating manna, and some of the people, I think people that were not Israelites but that had left with the group, were complaining that, back in Egypt they had fish and onion and leeks, to eat, and now all they have is manna. And the Most High got upset. I think it said he rained down quail. I wasn't reading the Bible verse. This was someone else's interpretation of the Bible. But he said that he rained down quail and his anger kindled, and some of the people that ate the quail died. So or maybe all of them that ate the quail died. But I read that, that had a little to do with onion, but it did have something to do with coming up out of Egypt. So, and going into a promised land. So all that being said, to say, if I prayed for interpretation and I think I received it, I'm not going to reveal that yet, but I'd like to know if you guys have any thoughts, because this is kind of the second dream that I've had about returning to Israel, and I hadn't had any dreams like that in a while. But the one with those Ethiopians, how we were going backwards, I really thought that driving in reverse down that windy path was returning to Israel, because they had on those ancient clothes as well. So I'd like you guys to just tell me what you think. Um, you can comment, or whatever the case be. All right, thanks.